Hey, well, thanks everyone for joining us. This is Levi, Finland, our trip info session. And I'm going to start with some introductions because different for this one, you've got two new guests hosting this. Sandy is here, but we're going to keep it to people who've actually been to Levi, Finland, to share a little bit about our experiences. And then Sandy will jump in if there's any, detailed questions around my ski trip or around some of the other details. So I'm Allison. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Sandy's better half. I am a longtime participant with My Ski Trip Trips, and that's been a lot of my training and traveling over the years to get to where I am today, where I'm a ski instructor and an instructor trainer with level ones and level two courses. And as I said, I'm here today because I was very fortunate to travel to Levi, Finland, with the Canadian team as a delegate, as a guest for Levi during Interski 2023. And joining me tonight is Jeff Marks, all the way from Banff, Alberta. So if you don't know Jeff, Jeff's a very active ski instructor and trainer, level ones through right to level fours. And Jeff has held a lot of different varied leadership roles in the ski industry over the years, including head coach of the Canadian team at Levi Interski 2023. And before that, Jeff was also an athlete with the Argentina and Bulgaria Canadian teams. So Jeff has traveled the world, spent a bit of time as snow school director in Japan, lots of stories around that. But just to, this guy has been everywhere, has seen a lot, and is a big mountain skier in the Bow Valley in Banff. So Jeff's with us because he has lots of personal experience to share in the lead up to this trip, to help you kind of get a bit of an idea of what Levi Finland has to offer. So with that, Jeff.
Nice. Thanks. That's quite the intro. Hopefully I can do you justice here. Yeah, great to be on the call and fun to see some familiar faces that I haven't seen in a very long time. And I think I might have skied with just about everybody here at least once, which is great. So yeah, I mean, happy to be here. Happy to kind of share some of the Levy experience and reflect on what we what we found over there. I've actually been there twice. Once was for the Presidium meetings for Interski and a bit of a site visit and so on. And in that event, we got toured around and shown around by locals. And there's a guy here, and I think Alice and I mentioned to you, his name is Levi, which is actually Leevi. But he is now, I believe, the snow school director in Levi, and great young dude, totally skilled everywhere on the mountain. And if you guys get a chance to meet him, that will certainly crank up the experience in Levi as well. But yeah, happy to fill in where I can and answer some questions. I have some memories of the place, and I know Allison does too. And I see Perry's on the call, and he can probably back me up on a few things. But yeah, March 31st to April 7th. Sounds like everybody is going to be there, which is awesome. Maybe I'll start with this, which is I would just encourage everybody to try to experience this place. Not to sound like a salesman, but if that's not sounding like a salesman, I don't know what is. Really, really cool spot. This time of year, you're going to find that daylight hours are actually very similar to what we'll experience over here at this time of year. Compared to January, for example, when they spend most of the day in darkness. That was one of the reasons why Interski was moved to March versus January in their first bid. Levy actually tried to get Interski a number of times, and eventually when they moved it to March, that was one of the turning points for that reason. I know in Ontario by this time ski season is wrapped up or wrapping up, and so to kind of get back to a place like this where it's winter conditions, we kind of got everything. Hey, Allison, like we got some fresh snow, we got some cooler temperatures, but also some really nice daytime sunny sharp light days that were just awesome. So you kind of you're still going to get a bit of a mixed bag But it's a great spot and kind of a nice way to maybe round out a season for everybody that's based all over the place. Um, yeah, I don't know how deep I need to go into this stuff, but there's some really unique aspects about the location itself. You're inside the Arctic Circle. You're inside the circle by about 170, 80K, which obviously is part of the reason why you're getting such a swing in daylight hours to not. And it's a neat transition in the season where there's enough, darkness where we experienced a few times the Northern Lights, which were just crazy. Like you got to see it to believe it. It's quite something. And it's really neat just to kind of stand at the top of a ski area like that and where, how the mountain works and it is kind of this bump in the landscape, and so you can get a 360-degree view, and to kind of stand there and recognize where you're standing on the world and look around and just kind of appreciate the fact that, I don't know, this sport can kind of take us everywhere to different places and experience that, I think is kind of cool. Not to be too philosophical about it, but what a cool vehicle to be able to go and experience a different part of the world.
Yeah. And we'll get into a little bit of how to get there and what that involves. Maybe first what I'll do is for those joining that are new to my ski trip, maybe just give you a bit of like who we are. So my ski trip is pretty much broken into two major categories. 50% of what we do is local results training, day-to-day training, helping people unlock their potential, make changes so they can enjoy skiing a little bit more, or perhaps those of you that are working towards goals like certifications, the training is there for that. The other side, which is part of what we're talking about tonight, are the trips, the training camps. And so the destination training camps, run from anywhere from 5 to 6 days of skiing with daily coaching. And we just literally got back from Chile last week, had 2 amazing weeks of training down there with Sandy Gardner and Allie Hunter, and other trips that my ski trip offers throughout the season to Austria, to Sunshine, Japan, Quebec, as well as Andorra, and now really excited to talk about Finland. All of this began when Sandy visited Zermatt decades ago, like probably over 27 years ago, and in the early fall. And he decided that this was an opportunity he wanted to make available for people to travel and train, and be able to get a head start on their season. And as Sandy has worked with more and more guests who have come back to the trips, it has opened up an opportunity to have more and more destinations because people want to ski the world, and do more of what they love in different places. And so it really has evolved as more people have participated and wanted more destinations and more adventures. So I've got a couple of recap photo slides here of last season. So just get a sense of, our guests, some of the destinations that we went to. And what I would say here is it's not just great coaches that are with us every day, training, working on our opportunities for improvement, but it's also the fantastic people that join us. You get to share your travel with really interesting people from all across the world, not just Canadians, not just people from Ontario. In Chile, we had people from the West Coast. We also had, a few of our American friends come up and ski in Chile. And so, that's also a great way to feel that you're enjoying your trip, getting to meet new people. Also, Sandy carefully plans these trips around the best weather. I know he does not have a crystal ball and he can't make snow happen, but we've been pretty lucky to find the right weeks to go when there has been a trend of good weather and good snow for those particular destinations. A lot of our trips, are multiple groups. Andorra last year was our largest with 5 groups. Most of our trips are 2 to 3 groups, and we'll talk a little bit more about what that looks like later. But that gives you a sense that there's many different people to mingle with, have dinner with, ski with. And adding a variety of destinations does mean that we don't see everyone show up on one trip in Zermatt like in the early days. The numbers do spread out a little bit more over more trips, but I think having variety for our repeat guests is the right direction, and that's why we've added Levi this year. And I couldn't not throw in the most recent trip to Chile. So these are a few highlights from the literally 2 weeks ago. Great weather, great snow conditions. Everything went as planned. The people were fantastic. And that little air delay that we had coming home, well, we managed it, and it's in the rearview mirror now. And I'll just kind of close off this section with giving you a bit of a highlight of the season coming forward. So, you can see Finland down there in March, but there are other trips that my ski trip is hosting. So 8 destinations at some awesome locations, as well as training at Blue Mountain and Craigleith during the winter.
Cool. Oh, am I on? I'm on. Maybe just to set some context, like if you're not familiar with it, one of the ways a ski area or a resort gets chosen for an event like Interski is, based on terrain available and where can the teams train, where can the teams hone their performance runs, and where can we run sessions that are productive and the right challenge zone for people and so on. And so I start with that basically because it's really hard to describe the exact details of the mountain, but for people who are a little bit technically minded that want to train, that want to get lots of laps in and some flow. Levy it's awesome for that. We had some really productive days there where we did have a chance to work with our athletes on the team. In fact, we went to Levy early to make that work. And as did a lot of the teams for that event. So it was really good in that sense, because it's a super usable, flowy ski area. And I think everybody is aware of this. Everything from long, cruisy, really nicely groomed, hard packed snow that you can get some stuff done, all the way to, and it's kind of noted here, like, and I think it's called Levy Black is the slalom pitch, and it's something like it's impressive when you're standing there at the top or even better if you don't stand there at the top and you ski over it and hit that pitch. There's some challenge available there for sure. So yeah, it's got a great spread. Like you can kind of tell, and I think there's a map visual here coming up next. Food and drink also important, but let's go to the map first. Where'd we go? One more back. There we are. So as you look at it, and maybe one thing, if this information isn't already out there, if you do go to the levee, the ski levee map, their digital map, it's interactive and you can actually move around the ski area and look at it from different angles. It's not there's actually very little English on it, which I think is quite cool. But it'll give you a sense of kind of how the ski area is laid out and their different points. So 0 point is where the town is. And not to jump ahead, but it's literally I don't know, I would ballpark it at less than a minute walk from your hotel to the 0 point lifts, which is cool. Really neat cafe down there and so on. And then you can either lift over or bus over to the other start points. So there's West Point and so on where you can start skiing, which is super handy because with the weather changing, with the different wind directions and so on and so forth, it's laid out in such a way that down days would be minimal, if at all. And there's depending on the way the wind comes in, it'll load in different parts of the ski area as well. So you can kind of hunt that out and find good snow all over the place. But yeah, the flow of the hill is quite cool. Like it'll take a bit of getting used to. Like it's not an intuitive ski area, if that makes sense at first glance. It'll probably take you a day to figure out which lift connects to where. Um, one more part that we all found like quite cool and unique was the number of pommel lifts and T-bars. So they have some super high tech 6 and 8 pack lifts, and then right back to the good old days of T-bars and pommel lifts all over the place. And so it moves well. You can access all of the ski area. And then if you have a windy day or a snow day or whatever, you can do quick laps on T-bars and move around the whole place. So I found myself on sessions from other teams quite literally not really having any idea where I was at that moment, but it kind of not mattering because the skiing was great and everything just moved. So it'll take you a good day at least to figure it all out, and then you'll be rolling.
And Jeff, I seem to remember too, like there was some areas where you felt like you were in a completely different area, like with the trees and the woods,
Yeah.
and you're just like, oh, th this is not what I saw when I was at the top of the mountain looking down into the Lapland. So like you do kind of get into these pockets where you're like, oh, this is really different. And then maybe what else I'll throw out is there for the T-bar riders. These ones have very, very easy on and off. This is not like the Chile where you got to get off it in 2 seconds or you're hooked up on it.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. Like in fact, your opening slide there, Allison, shows what the conditions could be like. We didn't, or at least I didn't get into the kind of the off-piste treed stuff all that much. I was kind of focused on a lot of other stuff, but the terrain available is quite cool. There's a lot of off-piste skiing to be had if the snow suits. This might be a little bit of a repeat. I probably don't need to read any of this to you, but there's a considerable amount of skiing to be had, and again, you can connect different parts to different directions and so on, and basically create a pretty different day every day you're up there, depending on how things are going. Cool. Yeah, just a bit of a picture of the quality, like the grooming was fantastic. They groom most of the ski area pretty much every night. It's really well looked after. I think this is one of their newest 8 packs over on the West Point side, which is where we did a lot of the sessioning and training.
I think they were heated
Oh
and
yeah,
they were bubble. So
bubbled,
if
heated.
it
Yeah,
is cool, they've got the infrastructure. I think that was, one thing that I really felt the newness and the investments that they had made into this resort.
yeah.
So the big difference when you visit Levy Finland with my ski trip is that we include daily coaching by our Canadian coaching team. Here's the team from last year's Andorra trip. So you recognize some of these faces. You've got Casey, Mike Schneider, Chris O'Kane, Ali, Hunter, and of course, Sandy. Sandy does hire the best coaches, and I'll say from around the world because you all know our dog Reader, who's famously named after Nick Reader. But they are not just great at skiing, level 4 certified instructors. They're not just great at their craft of teaching and getting results out of people, but they are great people. And that's important because they're a large part of building the atmosphere on a my ski trip. They stay with us, they have dinner, they eat lunch with us. In Andorra, these guys and gals were the ones keeping the apres going and making sure that everyone was having a great time and feeling included. So, that's what you can expect from the coaching teams that Sandy assembles. Our approach to training is modern. What you will not experience is feeling like you're in a never-ending lesson. We don't stand around and talk. We are on a ski destination. You've traveled, to another part of the world to ski, to actively get involved in the sport that you love. And so unlike an instructor's course or a certification course, there's no material that we must deliver. So training is really geared towards you, the group. It's all about the mountain, what the conditions are doing that day, and how we can maximize your trip. So we really do want to make sure that you get a lot of skiing time. And what we want to do is make sure what you're doing well is built upon. We might see some opportunities that can make it more easy for you to get down a certain slope or conditions, or more exciting. And we'll take the time to point that out, where you can add something in your skiing to get that result. So whether it's ease, whether it's helping you feel, have a little bit more energy to get through day skiing, day 3, or it is about increasing the speed and getting some more activity and dynamic skiing out of your skiing. That's what we're there to help you with. And you're going to feel that the feedback that you get from my ski trip coaches is positive and focused on opportunities rather than on what you're doing wrong. It's keeping the environment fun and positive for your improved development. So that's really the approach my ski trip takes. And the promise that we give you is that you'll get a lot of skiing, you'll feel like you had a great travel trip, and you will improve. You'll walk away feeling that you can conquer the mountain, and not much is going to hijack you on that trip because you've got a coach that can help you navigate the changes that might happen with conditions or snow or weather. Our groups are typically small, anywhere from 3 to 6 people, and they're based on similar abilities or intentions. So, with Andorra, 5 different groups. Obviously we've got people with different where they want to ski. Some want to get into the off-piste, the bumps, the steeps, and others might be like, I just, really want to trip with blue cruisers and I want to be able to take more photographs and video. So we really try to get to know you and get you into that right group. You are with the same coach the whole week. And part of the reason for that is, back in the day before the pandemic, we used to move around from coach to coach. But during the pandemic, when Sandy took groups to Quebec and you kind of had to be in a bubble, what the learning was that the more time you spent with one coach, the more likely that the results were going to stick, the changes were going to be consistent, and you would get that feedback working with that coach every day to, by the end of 6 days, have something that you own and walk away with. So for that reason, we do stick with one coach. Now, during that ski week, if we need to move people around, Sandy likes to call it player trades, but really it's more for better matching of skill or interest. At some point in the trip, somebody might find that they are, a little bit tired and they want to take it a little bit slower, or we might get a big storm of snow, and that might change the experiences. People who have skied big mountains and have a lot of powder skiing under their belt versus some of us from Ontario that might have seen a handful of powder days, that might make sense to switch things up. So, we do that very respectfully. We do that so that, the entire group and you get the most out of that day. So that's something to expect. Our typical ski day, we meet in the morning, and when you see where we're staying here in Levi, Finland, basically you're going to get booted up in your hotel room and walk down to the lift. So we're meeting the coaching staff on snow, 8:30, 9 o'clock when the lifts start to turn. We like to be first up to get those first tracks. And there is a midday break where we will break for lunch. We try to beat the rush. So depending on what the traffic is like during the week that we're at a destination, we'll pick whether we stop at 11:30 or 11:45, but typically the group with their coach makes a game plan on that day based on where they want to eat for lunch. The afternoon continue to explore the mountain, continue to pick up on themes from the morning that you or the group might have been working on. And we do make sure that everybody leaves with at least 1 to 2 videos. And the way the coaching staff at my ski trip deliver your video is either by email or, dropping it to you on your phone, but also with comments on, reminding what were we working on, what were the key themes for you, and maybe a couple of ideas just to kind of help you look at the video and then be able to sleep on it and come out fresh the next day to keep working on those ideas. And, a typical day will be based on the group. usually around 2:30, 3 o'clock. Most people in a big mountain will start be ready to call it a day. But you're very likely, if you want to stay out and keep practicing, that is, completely your prerogative. Or if you want to go and join the group at an après, sorry, join the group on an après before dinner time. We will also have time for that.
So the travel side of things, and Ali and Sandy and I were chatting about this just before the call, and maybe like Perry can chime in on this too. When we traveled, it was during and on the heels of COVID. So our travel was a little bit unique in terms of how we chose to do it. But maybe I'll focus on, this aspect of it, which is the Kittilä arrival, and it's, I mean, it's about 10 minutes by ground transit to Levi. So it's actually a super convenient entry point. And so how you get to Helsinki, how you get there is kind of, if I understand correctly, Ali, with Ali and Sandy's help, they can probably help you figure that out. But once you get to Kittilä, then an easy transfer into Levi. And I do have one quick story to tell with like Finnair, who's basically the only airline who flies into Kittilä. So regardless of how you get to Helsinki or anywhere else, you're going to end up on Finnair. They're wonderful. So you picture over 1,000 people converging on this small ski resort at the same time within the same a couple of days. And to keep the story short, we were just landing, and the pilot comes on, uh, you know, and basically has this very polite conversation with us about the fact that not everyone's skis and snowboards made it onto the plane because there were too many people and too much luggage. And so he was unbelievably apologetic and bared his soul to everybody on the plane about this. And please let it. We don't. You won't know until you get off the plane if your luggage made it or not. We really apologize. Anyway, they were wonderful. They were super helpful. Everybody got their luggage in the end, and it worked out well. But super helpful. And when there's no flight, there is nothing going on at that airport. So when it's it is specifically designed for that location. So yeah, so when you get there, at least when we were there, there were people to meet us and so on, which I'm sure is all part of the plan when you arrive. And like I say, quick transfer in, so it's all quite convenient to get up there.
And this is where, as you're planning your travel too, is that, spending a couple of days in Helsinki, either at the front end or the back end of the trip would be highly recommended. Friends that did that really found Helsinki to be really interesting and offer some other Finnish and Scandinavian opportunities that they wouldn't otherwise have gotten if they hadn't been flying through there. So, thinking about that either on the beginning or the end of the trip. And maybe the other thing that I would say is if you're someone that does not like to travel with your skis, there are plenty of high-end rentals at the Levi Ski Resort. So if you don't want to lug your ski from airport to airport, you could consider doing the ski rental option.
Cool. Yeah, this is the hotel that I know Allison and Sandy have chosen the same hotel that we stayed at for Interski. I mean, I can summary really quick. Great hotel, super comfortable, super clean, well looked after. Beds are comfortable, and the breakfast, which Ali, correct me if I'm wrong, probably included in the package when you book, I assume. Typically, they do, it's a buffet breakfast, very well appointed, all kinds of yummy things. Maybe a quick note on the food. There's a couple things you'll probably notice there, which maybe I'm skipping ahead. But blueberries, I didn't know this before we went. Blueberries are a thing. Like they are the thing up there as far as like fruit and like fresh fruit and stuff goes. So blueberry juice, blueberry jam, blueberry everything. So that was kind of neat. That's a bit of a standard thing. And then of course there is the reindeer side of things, but we can talk about that later.
Uh, yeah, it is a beautiful hotel and close, like steps away from the lifts. It's a pretty big chain in Finland. It's Finnish owned, and their whole goal is to create happiness. So when you walk in, the staff at the front desk, the staff in the hotel, they just want to make sure you are having this amazing, happy vacation, and whatever they can do to make you happy in your stay, they will make sure that you've got it.
One thing maybe to add, if when you go, bring cat tracks for your boots. They add a lot of gravel all the time on the streets there. So maybe make a note of that. That was something we shared with the team too, just to protect your boots. It's a bit of a weird comment, but definitely it was a good thing to have those.
No, so the rooms are shared or single. European beds. So a king or a queen, and they've got that like if you are sharing and you have two beds, you have that what is it 1 meter between the two beds to give you to give you your personal space. Daily housekeeping is typical hotel, and the bathroom amenities are like 100% modern, beautiful. Like that was the one thing that I felt that I was just like it was super nice, relaxing. It had everything that you needed, from hair dryers to the soaps and the amenities and the beautiful linens. Jeff, I don't know if did you get to use the sauna or the gym that's also accessible for hotel guests?
I did not, but I know that some of our people did, and they spoke pretty highly of it.
Yeah. Yeah, and so I mean, the Finnish sauna is probably, I mean, there's other saunas that you can go and do tours and book on additions, but the hotel does have a sauna open from 5 to 10 p.m. And the gym is for those that you that have to get up and work out 4 a.m. to 11 p.m. and it's part of your hotel stay, so no additional charge to use the gym. So on this trip, we do include breakfast and dinner. And let me just do a little bit of talk about what to expect there. So the hotel restaurant does have, does serve our breakfast daily as well as our dinner. And then there is a coffee bar, and the coffee was quite good. So the buffet for breakfast is everything you can imagine that you might want. Eggs made to order, your juices, your coffee, your yogurts, your granola, your cereals, your breads. And it starts at 7 a.m. So it gives you lots of time to get your breakfast, get back to your room, get geared up, and be on snow for 9 a.m. start. And the dinner is a daily buffet as well that features a lot of Scandinavian flavors, and they will cater to everyone. So if there are food or preferences, we'll get that ahead of time from you and make sure that the chef and team know so that they can prepare those alternatives, or even to be able to share with you what ingredients are in certain foods so that you can avoid them. So if you're looking to eat vegetarian or pescatarian, no problem at all with that. When it comes to lunch, you are on your own, but the wonderful thing about Levy is that there's over 60 restaurants in the town of Levy, with 8 of them being right on the mountain. So your group will have a hard decision over the 6 ski days to choose where you're going to eat lunch. And you can, find everything from soups and sandwiches, very casual, to pizzas and burgers, to informal dining for lunch. And so the trick here is, deciding what the group wants to do, trying a different spot each day. Typically, you're going to see that lunch is going to be between 15 and 25 euros for a casual meal. So if you're, not including, wine and beer, which typically we're not drinking at lunchtime, you're going to be around 15 to 25 euros for something to eat at lunch. It's exciting to look at all the options in town as well as on the mountain, for those that, just want to get a quick bite and then keep going. So Jeff, I don't know if you want to share a little bit about some of the après activities that might be in store for people.
Well, there is actually one that is it's a bit unique, and it may not be everybody's cup of tea, but right at the bottom of the 0 point lift. So if you're going up the gondola, which goes up to the Panorama Hotel, on the right hand side, you'll probably hear it before you see it. It's basically this famous nightclubby kind of approach, but it's outside on the deck. And I won't get this entirely correct, but there's a very well-known Finnish music artist who is there, and a DJ and so on, who is there every day. And I don't know what time they start. Perry might be able to chime in on this, but they start in the afternoon and they go till whatever time. And it's basically this crazy dance music party out on the deck at the base of the ski area. That just because it's quite uniquely Levy, you really need to go and just check that out once, even if you walk by. So
Yeah.
that's one thing you got to check out. Personally, I didn't do a lot of sort of the extracurricular stuff when I was there, but there are, I mean, the photo actually on the right is a good image of it. There's just lots of kind of mingling that you can do through the shops and stuff. There was a couple of places that we went for dinners that were great, and there was one, and the restaurant is called the Salmon Kami, which is right behind, if you look at the map, it's right behind the Levy K5 hotel. And it was a very neat traditional Finnish dinner experience. They had like traditional drumming and singing and storytelling and so on. And then also in the middle of the room, they had this. It was kind of like an island, like a food service island, but it had an open flame fire in the middle, and racks of salmon around it, and that kind of thing. So that was quite a cool experience. And I'm not sure whether that's an everyday thing for that location or whether it was a little bit event focused for us, but it was that was quite a cool thing. And then of course, the spas. There's cold and hot spas. There's the Aurora, and then also the reindeer, which and dog sledding. I forgot about dog sledding, snowmobiling, cross country skiing. There's all sorts of stuff to do there. But unfortunately, I'm not going to be the expert on telling you about those experiences.
But they're there, and our hotel will help if there's something that you want to try. They will help arrange it. And the people that when I was in Levy that did go off and do the cold plunges, they raved about those. Others did the snowmobiling safari and thought that was great. And I think on our first night there was like this alarm that went off to signal that the northern
Mm.
lights were visible, and that gets you out of your hotel to go and see them. And you don't have to trek miles to see them. Like when they're sending that alarm, you can see them right from the resort. But one night we did actually walk out onto a very frozen lake to take them in. And that was, like waiting for Godot. It was like at 11 p.m. and you're like, when are we going to see these things? And you just have to wait for nature to light up the sky.
I thought I'd chime in on Maria's questions about the reindeer. And again, I'm not a reindeer expert, but there's some interesting culture around it, right? So most of the reindeer in Finland are domesticated, if you will. So they're owned by the Finnish people. They're owned by people who have land rights in Finland. And there are apparently some wild reindeer still remaining and I think they just refer to them as forest reindeer. But I think it's upwards of about 200,000 reindeer in Finland, and they're all basically uh, owned by the Finnish people, and they actually they identify them with ear markings. So they all of those 200,000 reindeer have a fairly unique ear marking they get looked after. I think it's once or twice a year. They basically go out and collect all the reindeer, herd them together, make sure that my reindeer and Allison's reindeer and Susan's reindeer are all identified and they're all healthy, and so it's quite an interesting culture around that. So while you're there, definitely dig into that and ask some questions and go out and see them and so on.
And I think isn't the part of the prizing for the early World Cup slalom is you win a reindeer.
You win a reindeer. I think Michaela Schifrin has 9 of them now.
And I think they're on a farm somewhere. They're all like her reindeer have, they've not been sold. I think you can actually go see them. Somebody was telling me.
Well, and sorry, not to go too far down the reindeer road, but and this may or may not be true, but based on the population and the sort of the culture around it, it's not like a family have like 100 reindeer. It's actually quite limited. So each family would have rights to like 2 or 3 animals. And so Michaela Schifrin actually has far more than the average ownership of reindeer in Finland than anyone else. But anyway, that might be a little bit of fairy tales,
Folklore.
but yeah. And anyway, interesting to look into when you're there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, I'll get to the business part here and then we'll open for questions. So, the trip includes your accommodations, the daily coaching, lift tickets, both breakfasts and daily dinners, and of course the private ground transfers. Um, if you decide you'd like to come with us to Levi, Finland, we would be happy to have you. We do have a discount date of January 1st to receive a 10% discount. And all that is, when we get our hotel bills paid up front, they offer us a discount and we're passing that on to you, our guests. What you'll notice that's not included here is airfare. And a few reasons for that is that with travelers coming from multiple places, wanting to stay longer or arrive earlier, fly different classes, use points, it's much easier to leave that planning up to you so that you have the most flexibility in getting to your ski destination. So 5,500 Canadian for shared, $6,000 for a single occupancy plus HST. So that's the nuts and bolts of that. One other little admin tidbit I'll put out there is that new this year for Canadians, Sandy has organized trip insurance. And this trip insurance, if you don't already have your own to cover cancellations or trip interruption or medical, Sandy can put you in touch with the provider that we have sourced for my ski trip. The details of that is you just have to purchase this insurance within 5 days of booking your trip. And it's ranging from $500 and onwards, depending on what type of insurance that you want to add. The reason why we looked into this is that last year in Andorra, at the very last week, literally the last week before we were going, hotels were, we had the hotel rooms booked, everything was ready to go, and 2 couples ended up having some health issues that couldn't go. And when we tried to, recoup as much as possible, the hotels were like, sorry, we're not full, we can't give you a refund. So, the trip insurance is just a nice way to know that you are covered should something unexpected come up. We don't want to see anyone, have to, to get ill and miss their trip. But then also, having that coverage does make it a little bit easier. And so that's the formal presentation. What I'm going to do right now is I'm going to stop sharing the screen and we'll open it to questions that you might have, either for Jeff or myself, and we will go from there. Yes.